Hello and welcome to more secrets at the BBFC. So I had this idea a couple of days ago that we could do an extras kind of thing where we sort of talk about stuff that's probably not big enough to talk about in a regular episode, but still might be worth mentioning for those who are interested at all. So in this extras sort of episode, I thought it might be nice to touch on how the BBFC classifies trailers and public safety announcements like PSAs, because they're a sort of like moderately significant, if not sort of insignificant part that it's probably necessary to touch on if you want to get a full sense of what the BBFC does. So once again, I am recruiting from my previous pool of guests. So I have Rob once again.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here as always. And how are you doing?
Not too bad, thank you.
Always good to hear that. As always, as I've said, just always glad to be here and contribute towards this podcast.
Absolutely. So if we sound clueless, this is entirely intentional because this is just an extras thing. So these episodes probably aren't going to be that frequent because I actually want to get some proper podcasts. But I thought that this would just be fun to do because I was going to do a podcast, but then I thought I'm going to wait for a bit, and then I thought, hey, how about we just do a sort of extras thing that touches on stuff. So we're going to talk about trailers and PSAs. And the first thing you need to know about trailers is that the BBFC tends to be quite strict on them, which is strange, but then again, I can understand why, because in a sense, you're not really expecting what's coming. Like with a film, you can see the rating and the BBFC insight, but you're not necessarily going to, like, if there was a trailer of something like the Evil Dead or something, you're not necessarily going to expect that if you watch some kind of 18 rated comedy film, for instance.
Well, that's true. I mean, also I think it's the fact that removed from a context of the film that they're from, the clips we see in the trailers can be more, how should we say, impactful. So I mean, I think they just, with that in mind, because the BBFC have always been try to look at the film as a whole when they're classifying the thing, as in they'll look at its tone and the like, for better or for worse. I mean, your mileage on that may vary. And so yeah, watching little snippets and everything can give off a more sinister impression than the actual film it would. Good examples of this are Bloodshot, that Vin Diesel film that came out 2 years ago and is shit. And of course,
Is it actually shit?
It's not actually massively shit. It's just one of those bland, forgettable ones that if you went to see it at the cinema, you'd walk out going, "Well, that's my time in my life I'm not getting back," because you can't even laugh at it for being so bad it's good. It's meh, and that's kind of the worst thing a film can be at the end of the day.
So that's true.
Yeah. And of course, more recently, there's a new Doctor Strange film, which had 2 of its trailers rated 15, even though the movie as a whole was rated 12. And I having seen it, there are some strong horror elements, which they said they let pass at 12A due to the well-established universe and characters, which they felt reduced the impact. But obviously, yeah, outside of the context of the film, just seeing the trailer is, I guess they felt that the sense of quote-unquote strong threat was a bit more overbearing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess I've seen Doctor Strange too. I think like as a film, it's still quite a strong 12. I mean, it was directed, of course, by Sam Raimi, who's well known for directing like the Evil Dead franchise, and there's quite a lot of horror-esque gore that you might not necessarily expect in an MCU film, but
in
any chance, I think there was actually a trailer for it that was cut. I think it was the site of, I think if I remember this correctly, I think it was a part where Wanda's bloodied face is zoomed in. I think it was that was cut. I am not 100% sure of that.
I don't actually know. Could be worth having a quick gander or Google at to see if we can find out. But it may very well have been. Like I say, some of the other trailers were rated 12A, so they may have reduced it to get it past. But again, I mean, you are right in terms of a 12A. It is quite strong horror elements. I mean, bear in mind both earlier this year, but well, both for the Batman and Morbius. One film is great, the other is an absolute dumpster fire. Were both rated 15, even though they're PG-13 rated stateside. They're both rated 15 here for their horror elements, and they felt the threat was too strong. I have seen Batman. I kind of think the BBFC were right on that one. I think it should have been R-rated. I haven't seen Morbius.
Oh God, yeah.
I know, like the thumb drive bit was took me a bit, and of course the scene where the Riddler makes his first kill. Well, no, not just that scene. I mean, many of the Riddler's kills. It's like, oh God, this is too strong for him. So yeah, I agree with what the BBFC did. I'm sad to say. I think maybe they could cause for a de-restrict a 15 rating, but to allow younger audience to see it. But yeah, a 12A was a bit too strong, considering how many complaints they got for the Dark Knight. I mean, yeah, this one was way worse than the Dark Knight. They weren't going to let that go up 12A. But yeah, those two were rated 15, but Doctor Strange got away with a 12A. I was quite surprised by how strong the horror elements are. It reminded me of Brightburn quite a bit. So I was actually quite impressed with the BBFC for them allowing that to go at 12A. I guess the fantastical superhero nature of the thing does reduce the impact somewhat, but still, it's interesting to know at least they will allow some horror things to pass at 12A.
Yeah, I mean, like, and of course, a bit off topic, but of course, we are going to cite The Woman in Black for this. How could you not cite The Woman in Black as an example of a film that really shouldn't have been rated 12 and consequently caused the BBFC to tighten up when they reassessed their guidelines?
Well, just a little bit for short-sightedness on my part, I guess. But yeah, I haven't seen The Woman in Black. It is quite an intense film, but there were edits made for its theatrical release to get it a 12A rating, but obviously those edits weren't enough. They got too many complaints. It is worth saying that because you can take your kids to see a 12A rated film doesn't mean you necessarily should. I mean, a 10-year-old, yeah, 5-year-old, no.
Yeah, yeah. Just take your 5-year-old to see Terminator 3 at the cinema. The next thing you know, they're just going to be bawling their eyes out because some cyborg has just stuck her hand through a man's chest or whatever.
Well, yeah. I mean, probably take him to see a I can't talk. Disney Pixar flick instead.
Yeah. You just take them to see Encanto. They'll probably sing away the songs or whatever. But anyway, I think another interesting trailer we probably should touch on is the Predator films. I mean, no, not the 2018 one. And what was interesting about that was that the trailer of it was classified 18, but the film as a whole was classified 15, despite it being a pretty strong 15 in some cases. I think there's a scene where characters basically a skinned character is basically cut in half so that his guts drip out. And what's interesting is that if you buy the DVD, it'll have a 15 rating. You buy the Blu-ray, it's slapped with an 18. Why? Because they decided to include that trailer. So yeah, just I mean, apparently it's not a particularly good film, but really
I saw it. I saw it. I was actually angry watching it because there was such a butchering of the such a slap in the face to the original film. I just thought, oh my god, they've ruined this franchise. But then of course they brought out Prey this year, and it's absolutely brilliant. So,
Oh, is it?
oh, the new Prey that's on Disney Plus, yeah, that's fucking amazing. They figured out what makes a damn Predator film good. It's the premise of the original one, just set in a different setting.
Yeah, just chuck a load of skinnings and then you're home and dry.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's a yeah, but it's all the whole survival man against the superior hunting force thing. That's what makes it good.
Yep. And also another interesting
Hello?
Child's Play. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Another interesting one was Child's Play, because I think that was also rated 18 for one of its trailers.
Oh, wait, which one are we talking about? Talking about the original one from the 80s or the one that's
The remake.
All right, I wasn't aware. I wasn't aware. To be honest, I don't know much about the trailers of these films. I did just Google the Predator there, say it. Oh yeah, one of the trailers was an 18. Yeah, they shouldn't have included that on the. Sorry, they shouldn't have included that in the Blu-ray. I mean, it just seems pointless. You've just gone out and knocked up another another rating and put in the same category as Saw or the house that Jack built or these things. Because
Yeah.
you say it's quite a strong 15. I don't think it was really. I mean, a lot of the. You've seen Logan. Have you seen Logan?
Bits. Yeah. Just
because
yeah.
That's a 15 rating, and again, it's very strong, much like Deadpool and everything. But again, 15 as our equivalent of an R rating. You kind of got to let a little bit go.
Yeah, true. I mean, you just but as long as you're not like allowing kids to see someone's face melt off, and
What, like in Raiders of the Lost Ark?
That's exactly the film I was thinking about. Imagine if they were trying to classify like a trailer for that. Imagine if they classified something like that with a 15 rating. That would be hilarious but strange at the same time.
Well, yeah,
they just have.
I mean, Karen.
It's funny if they. I reckon if that was classified 15, then you'd have years of the film not being shown on television, because I mean you see it on television being screened every like couple of months in the afternoon or something. If they I wonder if they actually took the trouble to watch the film, would they actually screen it at an early time, like without any edits or something?
It does, but yeah, because it has been on. I've read the same times in the past. It's been on in prime time era. Of course, they had made edits. I mean, they cut out the face melting scene. Probably with the face melting scene, they might put it on after the 9 p.m. watershed, which again is just kind of ironic because again, it was a PG. It's 12 now, but it was an uncut PG at the time, both sides of the Atlantic. But then again, so's Jaws. Well, actually, no, wait. Jaws was a cut PG. They cut like a second or two of footage to avoid an R rating. But yeah, apart from that, still probably the most violent PG we've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. You said they cut it out before the watershed, but I saw it before the watershed, and the whole thing was in. The whole face melting scene was in, so you just get to see someone's face just fizzle out, and yeah,
it is.
If you're a kid and you're listening to this, please don't go and watch it. You're just gonna have nightmares. It's not.
Well, I think I think if a 10, you might be able to handle it. I mean, a 10-year-old in 1981 when it came out would have seen it. Probably had no issues. I mean, I was 8 and I saw Jurassic Park, and that's been aired on the TV in prime time lots of times, unedited from what I've seen. At least the scene where she finds the guy's arm is still in there. So,
Mr. Arnold. Oh,
it's just a bloodied arm. Needless to say,
yeah.
Wasn't PG rated stateside, of course.
No, that was interesting. I mean,
well, it wouldn't have been PG rated this side if 12 wasn't restricted at the time being. Then they've admitted this. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's not hard to see when you watch the film why it shouldn't really be the rating it is. But anyway, we very, very heavily digress. But then again, this is a kind of extras episode, so don't expect if you're expecting some serious content, don't, because it's just literally going to be us fucking about with the internet, like at our
disposal.
hang on a sec, I'm really rambling.
Like I say,
Anyway,
everything here is off the cuff and everything. Like I say, it's not scripted. We're just gonna talk bollocks and see what we come up with.
yeah, and so here's a question for you: what's your favourite public safety announcement, if you have one?
I don't know if I've ever really had one, and it's not something I would tend to categorize in terms of my favorite one or least favorite. Public safety announcements are just there, or they're just stuff we have to sit through before the program we wanted us to watch starts. Usually more of background noise. I mean, well, growing up, I used to watch lots of Crime Stoppers, things, lots of safety announcements about stranger danger or climbing onto a power line or something like that. Again, they were just stuff that was in between during the commercial break to the cartoons I was watching as a kid. So
Yeah, you did have the odd like disturbing advert. I remember one. I think it was on Channel 5 during the early days, early on in the daytime, and then they were airing this weird shampoo advert, which was it would have been pretty tame for like late night TV. No, not late night TV, but like early evening TV. But seemed a bit strange to air like in the morning, especially since it was a children's program. So
it was a
it was a weird
shampoo
one.
advert, you say?
Yes.
Okay.
A very strange one.
Can't say I've. Doesn't ring any bells to me. Another one I remember.
I know. I mean,
Pardon?
what were you going to say?
I should say I was going to remember a whole fire safety one. Don't play with matches. PSA I saw once as a kid. That was a little bit scary and everything. And
Oh
course,
my god, that was They still aired that like years after it was first shown on TV. It was that animated one, wasn't it?
Oh no, it wasn't an animated one. It was live action. I think they had a sort of a sort of guy in a big red elephant costume.
What? That's
It
yeah.
was
No,
a
I don't think I've ever heard that one before.
Oh no, I think it was a one-off once I saw. Oh, and of course, PSAs. We can't always. How can we forget drink driving ones? Those always hit home.
Yeah, they really do. And just for a bit of context, if you're not a UK like listener, if you're not in the UK, you might not have heard of the Think campaigns, which were essentially these campaigns designed to target certain issues like drink driving or driving when tired or like, driving when texting and stuff. And some of them are quite interesting. So, I mean, not going to lie, some of them are some of the ones that would give you nightmare fuel. I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I was letting you letting you have the floor then. No, God, you just see them and they show, they start off quite innocently enough. It's just some guy sat in a pub and everything saying, "Oh, I can't have another one. I'm driving." Oh, go on. Oh, all right then. And he sees a girl walking past the table, and suddenly, just a complete tunnel shift. They zoom on a horrified face, have a huge bang and crash sound. She flies across the room, and then she's on the floor, bloodied, injured, and probably dead. And yeah, the guy's just sat there looking at the carnage. The whole scene looking like a cross now between the inside of a pub and the aftermath of a car accident. Obviously, that's when they bring in the they bring in the message, don't drink and drive and everything. It really does, it does hit home. It does make you think and everything. I mean, there are countless others like that. I was just that's the one that springs to my mind most of all.
I remember that. I think one that really springs to mind for me wasn't actually a TV advert, but it was a radio advert about motorcyclists.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going on about, I could be at home now, maybe watching telly with the kids. Like, if the BBFC was classifying radio adverts, I'm not sure why that aired early on in the day, because like some adverts, you're not seeing anything, but they're pretty harrowing nonetheless.
Well, usually it's in terms of a visual horror, less is sometimes more, because I mean, it's what you don't see that scares you because it plays with your imagination.
Absolutely. I mean, what's a good example?
Well, usually I talk about old school horror films and everything.
Yeah.
Basically, because they had to get through America's Hays Code and the super strict BBFC over here, they couldn't show too much violence and everything. Plus, they didn't have the technology or the special effects capability to make all these, visually impressive monsters so much. So they just kept them in the dark and out of sight so much. But of course, it had more impact because it just played with the audience expectations.
Yeah. A good example. There was this old animal cruelty advert about boiling bears.
Okay, not good.
And it's a strange one. It consists of it's played out like a recipe. So on the screen you see like a recipe. Recipe in inverted commas, i.e., something you really shouldn't follow. And then in the background, you've just got this poor bear being like hit and boiled alive. And that was rated 15 at the cinemas. And I think a couple of people in the comments were like, "Why would I want to see this before a comedy or something? Why would I want to see? Why would I want to hear the sound of a bear suffering or whatever?"
Well, yeah, it is not something you'd really want to see. I mean, so much it's or hear, to be honest. Can't think I've ever seen it, and having heard you describe it to me, I'm kind of glad. Animal cruelty is one of those things that really rubs me the wrong way pretty much more than anything else. Now I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, there are some pretty effective animal cruelty adverts, and there are some like good ones, but they're pretty. They can be pretty gruesome nonetheless.
Yeah, well, most ones I saw weren't particularly gruesome. I don't. That remember most of these RSPCA ads I saw.
Yeah.
They weren't particularly gruesome. They were just kind of heartbreaking and everything. But then again, I suppose that's kind of a point. They would try to appeal to emotion. But then again, that doesn't really affect the rating or anything, so that's not going to play into what we're talking about very much.
That's fine. I mean, I think probably the goriest animal cruelty advert that has ever been made is one called The Chase, which was to be honest, I am glad that one was rated 18 at the cinemas. That was not suitable for 15 at the time for a trailer or anything like that. I mean, it might have been, but it was basically this advert where it was shot from the point of view of the fox that was being chased. And at the end, it had quite a few graphic images of mutilated foxes. So, yeah, not a particularly pleasant advert, but a very well made one nonetheless, and something that gets the point across.
Yeah. Weirdest PSA ratings decision I've ever seen is this one for Crime Stoppers. I saw around about circa 2003. It came in two versions, a U-rated version and an 18-rated version. And the only difference I remember between the whole two versions was that someone says "fucking" once, which is like weird because that wouldn't factor into something being an 18. I mean, hell, you could say "fucking" in a 12 if you only once. I mean, And at least you always
That's
felt,
funny.
yeah, and maybe I just missed something. But the only thing I can remember, difference I can remember was the use of the singular F bomb. I mean, I might need to rewatch them just to see what the difference was, but my memory serves me right, which God knows it probably doesn't.
Oh no, it does. It does.
Yeah,
You were right. That's weird. It was so just for a bit of. I was just looking it up. So the U-rated version just says contains no sex, violence, or bad language, but which basically means there's nothing in it that warrants a rating. But then there's an 18 rated version, which is rated 18 for strong language. Like, come on, it's one use of fuck. It's not really a like a contributing factor to an 18. I mean, like,
no,
surely you could have awarded it a 15 or an 18 for something else rather than a single use of strong language. But
yeah, it's I know, that always just tend to yeah, it always bewildered me a little bit because you when you see if something's got rated 18, you do expect there to be a good reason. You expect when you see it to think, okay, it must be it. When you see it, to think, well, this wasn't all that. It's like yeah, I do feel it's almost like you've been uh oversold in something or a bit of false advertising. I mean, I know that's not really what it's meant to be all about, but you do get that impression.
yeah, I think there was have you heard of Cartoon, the NSPCC advert?
No, doesn't ring a bell. No.
So yeah, I've got it up right here. So it was rated 18 for, it says contains strong violence and language and child abuse theme. Which it does sort of play on your mind a bit because the whole premise of it is that it's a cartoon character being abused. It's not a child, but at the end it's revealed to be a child. So there's a bit of a twist there. So
Yeah.
it's almost played. It's sort of played in a comedic way when the boy's a cartoon, and there's sort of the like canned laughter in the background and like cartoonish sound effects. So I I guess I can sort of see why it would be rated 18 at the time, but it probably does seem a little bit excessive now, considering that it's sort of it's a cartoon character that's technically being abused at
Yeah.
the time. It's not a boy, even though it's revealed to be
Yeah.
a child.
I do remember I have seen the advert actually. I do remember. I had a feeling it might be. I've just basically googled it while you're talking. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know that would have been rated 18. I suppose sometimes you wonder if just basically they may rate it 18 just because of how it made them personally feel at the time being. But I mean, yeah, I don't think it should be an 18 or maybe a 15. Again, the yeah, the overall thematic elements may of abuse may actually raise it a a certificate. But of course, the whole point is meant to be sort of a harrowing or unsettling because to get its well again as we mentioned to get its point across. If it didn't do that, it wouldn't want to spur people into action.
Yeah, yeah, completely. I mean, it's probably one of the more infamously hard hitting adverts in recent years. Along with some of the older adverts like Apaches or Lonely Water. I mean, Apaches is a PG, which is sort of strange but understandable because it's it's a bit it's a bit graphic in places, but it's like I'd say the most graphic scene is where someone swallows um, turpentine or whatever and ends up being burnt from the inside out.
Ugh, Lord, that is does sound
Yeah,
it a little bit.
I mean it's off screen, but it is a bit like it's like that feeling you're like, really? Yeah, like yeah, what?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've not actually seen it, so I couldn't actually comment. But yeah, I mean, you do think they may does give me the impression maybe thrown the 18 certificate around a little too flippantly in these cases.
Yeah.
Much like which is it seems a bit silly because it seems like something they'd stopped doing so much. Like, yeah, they seem to do that a lot during Furman's era. Films were rated 18 or they had to be heavily cut to get 15. Then when after he pissed off, they'd either require much less cuts to get a 15, or they could get an uncut 50. Like we see with most of these R-rated action films we see. And to the extent that 18 ratings became very, very rare at the cinema. But it does seem like they want to throw it around a bit flippantly. Here it's like, you might tell them, you keep throwing that rating around, it's going to lose its meaning. So maybe dial it back a little bit.
Yeah, you know what? It's what the funniest bit about it was that originally I think the BBFC would give, so if it was like a charity advert, they would automatically give it an 18.
Mm-hmm.
As if like younger children couldn't handle something like that. What? Like what?
Yeah, that does seem a little. Yeah, that's just stupid. That is. I mean, well, I've always talked about how the BBFC have basically made great strides and have really evolved as a firm. Well, just over my lifetime, just since Furman left, or at the end of the 20th century, and just how they seem a lot more down to earth, a lot more reasonable. Technically, one could say they've grown up a bit. But now it's like, but when you look at this, I think they've still got a lot of shit to work out. They still need to be a little less knee jerk and a little less overzealous.
Yeah, I mean, they need to work. They need to work at that, but at least they're not just willingly handing out 18s just because an advert is about a charity.
Yeah,
which is strange, but
yeah, it's.
At this stage, if you've been listening to this podcast, you're gonna expect strange things from Furman era kind of times. Otherwise, you're probably gonna be surprised too much. And Furman was not a man of great surprises.
Well, unless it could surprise people, what just utterly insane the man was, or just absolutely ridiculous his decisions were and everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, we covered it all on our previous podcast about him. I mean, I could say it bears repeating, but I just don't want to sound like a broken old record. But I'll just say it anyway. His attitude towards nunchucks was just so stupid. It's just boggles the flipping mind that he could just. So yeah, I mean, when he left the BBFC, there was a great sense of liberation just in the air, just how much they chilled out. But
Yeah.
that was a conversation for back then. Mind you, we're just talking about whatever now, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a very, very extras podcast.
Well, yeah, like I say, everything's completely off the cuff. We're just talking about whatever that, at least that's related to the BBFC. And yeah, I mean, well, like I say, this is related to BBFC, and the ratings regarding the PSAs and trailers are also rated by C. So, I mean, that's
yeah.
So just it gets added in.
Yeah, and video games. I mean, video games is a bit of an old one because they just sort of, well, I think they stopped about a few years ago. I think rating video games.
Yeah, about 10 years ago, I think, or at least come to a 10th anniversary, they stopped and basically they handed it over to Video's Standards Council, who just applied the PEGI ratings. For better or worse, PEGI does look stricter in what it might give a rating to, but at the same time, PEGI doesn't ever demand cuts at least not at the highest level, in spite of what South Park may tell you. And
yeah,
the Video Standards Council can still ban ban a video game, as what happened with the game Omega Labyrinth Z. That was banned for release over here because it looked like it was sexualizing minors. Okay, if there's ever a reason to ban it, something, I'll give it that. That's probably the best one.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, it's not good at all. But considering what there was like during when the BBFC had to rate video games, I mean, we had a problem with Manhunt 2, which originally was refused a classification here. When they brought them the edited M-rated version as opposed to the AO-rated version, they still again refused the classification and only did it after it was appealed, because basically they had to have their arm twisted to actually allow this edited video game to be released with an 18 rating.
That was a weird one. I think sadly my AirPods seem to be dying a bit. So yeah, that was a liberating experience. I say liberating as in, well, I think you know what to expect. Yeah, enlightening. I promise you the next episode will not be as
random.
Weird. Yeah, random.
Chaotic.
I think,
unstructured.
Yep. A bit strange, but
yeah. Well, at least,
then again,
at least we're having something to talk about and exchange some ideas.
Yeah. So that was more secrets at the BBFC, even if some of the secrets were some of the old secrets we sort of rehashed. And that seems to be the extent of trailers and the PSAs. So, adios.
All right. Well,
see you in the next podcast.
All right. Well,